But first tonight, could there be progress in the Keogh case at last? Today, for the first time, the South Australian Medical Board heard evidence during an inquiry into the professional competence of pathologist Dr Colin Manock. The state's former chief pathologist worked on thousands of cases, including the murder conviction of Henry Keogh. And we've now learned what we always suspected, that more autopsy photographs were taken than have been disclosed. The question now is why and what else has not been revealed? Well, possibly quite a lot. Access has still been denied to the original police and forensic negatives, which contain the only meaningful clues both to the cause of death of young lawyer Anna-Jane Chaney and to the conduct of those whose job it was to properly investigate, gather and record all of the available evidence before deciding the outcome. Graham Archer has the story so far.
By not showing us the negatives, you can draw your own conclusions. Is there something to hide? Have they lost them? Did somebody spill coffee on them? We just need to know that.
Our system, instead of serving the public, has begun to serve itself and has become distant from the public and their needs, and we need to correct that.
Sooner or later, something in our justice system has to give, and today's medical board hearing may be the beginning.
Objectively, we can say we don't know because we never measured the quality. No one ever measured it. If you don't audit it, how do you know?
As we've been signalling for years, the state is facing the biggest legal crisis of confidence possibly in the country's history.
I'm utterly shocked that these things can have gone on.
What's equally disturbing is that many of the criminal law fraternity, state authorities and politicians have turned their backs on these warnings.
We've had a petition before the government and we've been waiting 2 years to get a response, and we've been blocked or delayed all along the line.
Of the dozens, if not hundreds, of questionable South Australian criminal cases, perhaps the best known is the conviction of Henry Keogh.
My view, and I said it at the trial, is that I don't think this case would have got to court in Victoria.
Over the years, Today Tonight, with the growing support of respected experts like Victoria's top pathologist, Professor Stephen Cordner, has revealed a catalogue of failures stemming from the actions of former chief pathologist Dr Colin Manock, which in other states would have guaranteed an immediate inquiry.
If there is an inconsistency, then yes, I think that should be investigated with as much rigour as possible.
Today, pathologists Byron Collins and Tony Thomas, who've also expressed grave doubts about Dr Manock's work, gave evidence before the medical board.
The information that's gone to the court, do you think that's been dealt with satisfactorily?
I think one would have to say no.
It seems to me that there should be no hesitation about ordering an investigation.
John Nader is a former New South Wales Supreme Court judge who says due process in the Keogh case appears to have comprehensively failed.
For a person involved in the prosecution to say there was other weighty evidence against an accused person in any event is just no answer. It shows a complete misunderstanding of the judicial process.
Today Tonight's concerns stem right from the scene of death of lawyer Anna-Jane Chaney. They range from the inadequate collection of evidence, unexplained phone calls, to the eyewitness accounts that conflict with each other, as well as the photographic evidence. And then there's the question of the missing car and the revelation that there was simply not enough water in the bath to drown a person in the manner the prosecution proposed.
Considering that level, would it have been possible, by the prosecution's theory, to drown a woman like Anna-Jane Chaney of that size in that amount of water?
If the head is kept straight facing upwards, certainly not, because the distance from the back of the head to the base of the nose is approximately 20 centimetres.
And more alarming, claims of interference with the body itself.
There are marks which are appearing on one photograph in particular as that photograph has been enhanced, which lead to a view that a part of the face of the deceased was interfered with.
Kevin Borick QC took on the case some years ago, and now over 20 medical and forensic experts have added their voices to calls for an inquiry. Amongst them is Adelaide's Professor Marche Hennenberg, who has recently confirmed there are alterations to the face of the deceased from one police photo to the next, taken at the scene of death.
Given the time frame, is that a change that could possibly occur naturally?
I would think it's impossible in such a short period of time for a natural change to occur and for the swelling to simply somehow go away. It had to be removed by an action of a person.
So it would require human intervention within that time frame to change her appearance from this to this?
As an anatomist, I would say yes, it would be impossible.
There is no doubt that the appearance of the face was altered, and there is no doubt that the jury were never informed of that fact. And there is no doubt that those alterations were significant on the issue of cause of death.
The mounting possibility is that Anna Jane's swelling was caused by an extreme allergic reaction. Similar events are well documented, but the most startling aspects of this are yet to be revealed.
New information has emerged which has taken us to further lines of investigation, which reveals a situation which I think the people of South Australia will be amazed at when they see the whole thing in its entirety, and they haven't seen that yet.
Even putting aside the contents of the photos, the number of autopsy photos taken demands an inquiry in itself.
There are other photographs which may be very relevant to that situation, which we haven't seen.
And here is the proof at last. This is the witness statement forensic photographer Murray Billett provided to the police and the court. He says at Chief Pathologist Dr. Manock's instructions, he took just 5 photographs of the autopsy. Just 5. But this week we have official confirmation from Forensic Science SA itself that at least 33 autopsy photographs were taken, and though no schedule of photos was said to exist, they've now produced one. Though the deceased's name is spelt incorrectly, and they've left a loophole around the date.
The fact is, we were never told about the existence of those photographs until now.
Who took the other photos is not made clear. What is clear is that something is very, very wrong.
There was a lot of photographs not exhibited in the trial.
That's always the case, yes.
But does the defence have access to all those photographs?
Yes.
Not if they haven't been told about them. Odd too is that the official version claims 3 different types of film were used, all in black and white. Yet Today Tonight has spoken to a film processor who says he developed colour film.
To the best of my recollection, the photos that we processed on that day were photos of the autopsy photos of, to me it was Anna Jane Chaney.
Alan Logue seems certain he developed at least one lot of colour photos of Anna Jane's autopsy for the same photographer, Murray Billett.
The films that we processed were colour, which I guess says there were colour photos taken of the autopsy, which seems to conflict with what's being said.
Now, I've been in forensic and in pathology for, since 1976, and I've never known anything other than using color. It's not to say black and white can't be used for certain specialist things, but as a general recording medium, color photography, either in transparency or in negatives, is an international standard.
But here it gets even more bizarre. Now Forensic Science has acknowledged these hitherto undisclosed photos, the medical board has yet to allow forensic photography expert Gail Spring, who came from Melbourne, to examine the all-important negatives.
The only way to guarantee that we know what we're looking at is to have access to the negatives.
Of course, at the heart of the whole case is Dr. Colin Manock, first employed in 1968 without the proper qualifications.
He was given the job, and then there were some notes in one of the earlier proceedings where they said, we knew we were taking a bit of a risk because we were appointing somebody without proper qualifications, but it was our view that he would get the qualifications after he was appointed.
And what a risk. Thousands of autopsies and a host of flawed cases. And as Dr. Bob Moll's just published book, A State of Injustice, reveals, so far, no Attorney General has wanted to know about it.
I think we should all be concerned about what's been happening.
This crisis is so much greater when you consider the conduct of our current Attorney-General Michael Atkinson, who has publicly hitched his reputation to the performances of the former DPP Paul Rofe and Dr Manock.
That duty is an absolute duty. He cannot back off that. An Attorney-General who does not approach that job with complete integrity is derelict in his duty.
While Justice Nader's comments are general and not directed at Atkinson, the AG has used his position to thwart attempts to investigate the case. He has publicly and privately damaged the names of the outspoken and used his office to encourage private legal action against others. All the while, Atkinson himself is a key witness in the criminal case against the government's former Mr Fix-It, Randall Ashbourne. And this is the bloke in charge of what is called the justice system.
We've explored every possible avenue, and every time we get knocked back, we go back to the drawing board, and every time further information emerges. And as an example, the existence of photographs which are of vital importance and we didn't know existed.
Now, maybe some progress. Finally, the medical board, the public watchdog of doctors, which pathologists must be, has made a tentative step towards putting Dr Manock himself under the microscope.
And do you think we've got close to the truth of this matter?
As it was presented in court, certainly not. But now, with the discussion of the water level, with the discussion of what happened to the face and so on, we are getting closer to the truth.
Whatever the medical board finds, it will not excuse any Attorney-General from their obligations to finding the truth and restoring public confidence.
There should be no hesitation about ordering an investigation. If it transpires that the body of evidence, the weight of the evidence is against these forensic pathologists who have been critical of Dr Manock, so be it. All it can do is clear the air and exonerate the Attorney-General.